The question about AI is not whether it's going to change your business, it's how soon and how ready are you? Well, Ron Green took his first class in AI in 1992, and he's been using it ever since. He's a four-time founder. He's survived 2 AI winters, and he started KUNGFU.AI 9 years ago. So, if you're curious about whether AI is going to lead us into the dark ages or the next renaissance, you might want to listen to what Ron Green's got to say. I'm Bryon Morrison. Let's get to the leaders list.
Everything is happening through these screens.
How are we getting the most out of that person?
I want to see this thing grow long term.
Amazing story. You have such a unique perspective on that.
Schedule a 2-week vacation.
I applaud those models.
Undervalue.
Secure your digital footprint as well.
Why were they even put in place in the first place?
Only the most adaptable survive. Let's get to the leaders list. Ron Green of KUNGFU.AI. Welcome to the leaders list.
Thank you for having me, Bryon.
Man, I'll tell you, I was so looking forward to this conversation because everybody wants to talk about AI. But most of the folks that you're talking to about it are hobbyists. You know, like I know you're well beyond using it to make an email. So Ron, tell us a little bit about just how long have you been working in this space? And then we'll get into Kung Fu specifically. But I think your background is worth paying attention to.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. I took my first course on artificial intelligence way back in 1992 and built my first neural network back then. And then went to grad school. I did a master's in artificial intelligence in 97 at the University of Sussex. And I've been working in AI since then. And we, founded KUNGFU.AI this was crazy, 9 years ago today. We founded the company 9 years ago today. So I've been working in AI pretty much my entire career. And it's just a dream come true. I mean, I consider myself the luckiest guy alive because in the 90s, it was just a dream. It was a dream and a hope, and we could kind of get things to work a little bit, but it was always touch and go, and we weren't really sure if we were on the right track or if this was a dead end. And I will tell you this, by 2005, it sure looked like it was a dead end. It did not seem like there was any hope. And then over the last, really since 2012, things resuscitated, and I'm just having the time of my life.
Man, that's great. 92. I wasn't even born then. You're so much older than me. No, but joking aside, like you have got to feel like I was really, I've always been on the early side of things. So, 92, we were talking about, we're talking about the internet, and we're talking about things that it was a little bit after that, but not long. And then around, 2000, we started talking about mobile, and I was, everybody, all of us saw it, and we were like, no, this is the year of mobile. Yeah. And then that only took till 2007. So you, Ray Kurzweil, right? There's got to be some folks out there that have been, you've been slogging through this for a long time. So I couldn't be any happier with the fact that you guys are starting to actually see AI used in really meaningful ways.
Yeah.
So good for you, dude. Congratulations.
Well,
but
thank you.
Tell us specifically about Kung Fu, and you guys 9 years ago for AI. Everybody listening to this, think about that. 9 years ago, you probably were talking to people, and it was kind of like when we were talking to people on the internet early or mobile, and their eyes glaze over. And they go, what the hell you're talking about?
Oh yeah. I mean, all of our early clients, if you go back, 9, 8, 7, maybe even 6 years ago, our early clients were risk takers. AI at that point was still considered, I think the right term would be fringe. People would, I literally had one person ask me, what's the difference between crypto and AI? Aren't they both like scams, and I get that sentiment because in the 90s we were building things and they were just so fragile. And it was, even in the 2000s, it was difficult to build real production grade AI systems. And so, and we can talk about this, but some things changed, and it was very, very clear once you've kind of worked in the industry like I have for a long time, you can tell when a technology has reached some turning point in its maturity, in its real. And so we knew we were on the right track. It's just funny when one of the funniest things is when I first took my first AI course back in the early 90s, I thought I was too late. I thought
Right.
I thought that, if they had a course on this, they must have it all figured out by now. And, and even if they don't, I'm probably not smart enough to really, be able to handle what crazy stuff might be behind AI. And now if I bump into somebody and I say, oh, well, we started this AI services company 8-9 years ago, they say, oh, so you were at the very beginning of AI, right? Like that was the start, right? I think that's what most people think.
And didn't you say that you said, I think I heard you say 9 years ago, you thought everything was like, you thought it was dead. And
Before that,
was that,
it was
was
before
that
that.
like
It
the
was,
trough of disillusionment?
I think it
Is
was. I
that when
think
you
it
would
was.
call that the AI winter?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So when I went to grad school and I did my master's in AI, it was right as the field was dying. We were entering what is typically referred to as the second AI winter. And the first one happened in the early 1970s and persisted up through the early 80s. And, by 2005, I mean, having a master's in artificial intelligence was basically worthless. You were fringe, right? You probably wasted your time. And there was something that happened in 2012. There was a computer vision contest, and there had been slow, steady progress over the years. And some grad students in Jeffrey Hinton's lab, Jeffrey Hinton is like, I think, sort of the godfather of deep learning, which is the dominant technique within AI. They submitted a model and it blew away the competition. I mean, it was a generational leap in performance. And then within just 2 years after that, by 2015, it was basically a solved problem. This problem of identifying objects in computer vision. And it was at that time, it was really about 12 years ago. I saw that and I was like, that's empirical proof that we've reached the maturity stage of the technology. And it turns out, and this is crazy, and this is one of the reasons I consider myself to be so lucky, is all of the things that I was focused on in the 90s, all of the techniques, which back then were called artificial neural networks, and now you typically use the term deep learning, were the exact techniques behind this breakthrough. We just didn't realize in the 90s that we thought, oh, we need, maybe 100 times more compute. Maybe we need 100 times more data. No. We needed 1 billion times more compute and 1 billion times more data. And that turned out to be the majority of the unlock.
So it was infrastructure and access, and just it's the infrastructure behind it that finally unlocked it.
It was two things. The internet resulted in the digitization of data that was
Tons of
critical,
data,
because
right?
most AI systems today, almost without exception, rely upon a ton of data to train the models and for them to learn. But then the other one, and this turns out this is one of the flukes of history, was on the compute side. One of the reasons that those grad students that sort of broke open modern AI in 2012, the way they were able to do that is they took NVIDIA GPUs and used them to train the model. Well, you may think, well, hold on, NVIDIA is famous for AI. They're I'm pretty sure they're largest company in the world from market cap perspective. They build the chips that modern AI is trained and inferenced on. Well, not back then. Back then, they made GPUs for video games. And what those grad students figured out was, hey, the same math that you use for video games, we use for our AI systems. What if we use these chips? And they got, orders and orders and orders of magnitude more compute and made it efficient to train these state-of-the-art models. And so it was like just a complete fluke that gaming and AI, that the gaming hardware solved the hardware need for AI.
God, that's why I love talking to you about this. I just love the historical perspective on that. But that's,
That's crazy.
because I remember not long ago we were talking about how, hey, stop talking about big data. Everybody's got big data, right? And we gotta pay attention to the 5 V's, volume, velocity, variety, veracity, value. And now it's like, no, overnight, to me, and to those of us who have not been in it like you, overnight we watch that turn into true value,
Hmm.
true operationalized use of data.
Yes.
And so when you guys started Kung Fu, you guys knew it was coming. Everybody, and you got a bunch of smart people on your team, a really exceptional leadership team. So when you did that, I think everybody probably came into it with eyes wide open, didn't you?
We did. We knew we were early, and we knew that this was going to be a very crowded space, and that, like any maturing and developing technology, the thing that was going to be needed more than anything else in the beginning was companies were going to need help figuring out their AI strategy, how to implement, how to get value from this new technology, and that was really our mission from day one. It's unbelievable. We're 9 years old today, and from day one, we've been focused exclusively on helping our clients design, build, and deploy artificial intelligence solutions. And we do everything from strategy to engineering. And the burn has been amazing because I work in AI. Anybody listening to this is probably like me, almost tired of hearing AI. It's like I hear it when I hear it in my dreams now, and it's the hype. I know people can, you just, all you hear is the buzz and the hype, and that can get that can get annoying, that can get old. Even I, frankly, get tired of it a little bit sometimes, but I'm truly blessed. And the funny thing, and I'm sure we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this, as hyped as it is, I think 90% of the world is sleeping on what's actually happening. The pace of acceleration is accelerating. I had many predictions in 2020 that people thought were crazy, that they would come true by 2030, and they're falling even faster than I expected.
Yeah.
We are. It almost feels like we're entering that. You talked about Ray Kurzweil, that singularity where you just go vertical. I think we're still a little bit away from that, but it is definitely going to happen.
So, like, you bring up Kurzweil. He said in 2029 we'll pass the Turing test, but it's his Turing test, right? So it was not 15 minutes. It was 3 hours with a computer scientist that would be fooled in who they are engaging with, right? They wouldn't realize that it's AI. Didn't everybody say he was psychotic when he said that 20 years ago?
Absolutely, especially when he said it, because if he'd have said it 10 years before that, I think a lot of people would have believed it. But there was such a crash within AI,
Yeah.
meaning by the late 90s, you didn't actually use the term artificial intelligence. If you were working in AI, you would say, "Oh, I'm focused on complex systems," or "I'm focused on dynamical systems," or "I'm focused on." There were many other terms for it. Building. There was this real approach towards symbolic AI, which is really sort of completely orthogonal to deep learning, what we're talking about here. And that world is around building up knowledge ontologies, and there's sort of emergent capabilities. So when Ray came out with that book, it was like he was a lunatic. It was like we are so far from that even if magic happened, we couldn't hit that date. And I would say even in 2020, which was 20 years into his 30-year prediction, if I was a betting person, the average betting person, I'd have bet against him. And there were just a few of us out there, I think, that were just reading. I don't want to say we were smarter than anybody else. We were just paying attention. We could kind of read the tea leaves a little bit more accurately and could see clearly it was coming.
Yeah, the thing that is interesting is I've always worked on the beginning edge, fringe edge of a lot of those big technology shifts. And I got to tell you, you know, AI is one of those, like, even I am surprised consistently and having a tougher time seeing not 10 years, like 10 years. Yeah. I mean, I know the stages we're going to go through, right? And companies are going to go through that process, but it is moving at such a rapid pace
It
that I
is.
am actually having a tough time kind of visualizing what this is going to look like.
I'm right there with you. I mean, I
Oh,
don't.
ball. You're way ahead of me, but what,
We can make predictions about specific technological capabilities, but I think they're going to have such large social ramifications. It's hard to really understand them.
yeah, yeah. And, the merging of AI and quantum computing, and just like you said, scale and access, it is going to change the 5 Vs, right? I
It
mean,
is.
like that's when it gets so alarmingly different that I think that's the part when people do have pause or they worry about it. It's because, I mean, it is going to move at such a pace. I don't know that we can keep up in the same way that
I
we
know
haven't.
it is. I think anybody living in the modern society has seen multiple technological waves come and go, meaning even if you don't work within the tech business, you remember the personal computer revolution, you remember the dot-com explosion, you remember mobile, and it may feel like this is the next technological wave. But the reality is that this is that and much, much more. This is hands down the largest advancement we will ever experience in our lifetimes. It's the biggest technological revolution. And it's what's different about it is that this is the first time in history that we have technologies that can be instrumental in building the next better version of themselves. You could point to things like, you could look at the way that computers would be used to build the chips for the next generation of computers. And there was a little bit of there was more than a little bit, but there was a positive reinforcement loop here. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about something much more dramatic, which is the AI systems are now literally playing an instrumental role in building the next version, the next smarter version of the AI system. And we've never had any type of sort of recursive technology like that before. And I think it's really important also to point out, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, which is perhaps the most ironic thing is that the number one field being sort of disrupted is software programming. That domain is now being in sort of entirely disrupted by AI coding agents. And if you are somebody listening to this and you said, "Oh, I tried AI coding agents a year ago. It was like vibe coding. Yeah, it kind of helped me write a little bit of code here and there, but it wasn't dependable." Or if you looked at it 6 months ago and you had that same opinion, something happened in December. I'm a big believer in these sort of emerging capabilities. Something happened in December 2025, and we are now able to essentially give AI coding agents incredibly high-level directives that require it to go research and plan and code and test for hours and hours and hours at a time. And when it's done, it just works. You can build entire applications by just describing what you want. And that wasn't possible just a handful of months ago. So the pace is accelerating, like we've already talked about. And, maybe if you're not in the software world, you don't realize this, but, there's this old saying, like from about 15 years ago, that software was eating the world because software was slowly being embedded into every aspect of our life. Well, AI is eating software now.
Yeah. Wow. So, Ron, like I can't stand the fear-based bullshit that everybody throws out about AI, but do you see this are we on the edge? I agree with you. I don't think this is a slightly incremental change. This is, fundamentally different. And is this, are we going to enter the dark ages, or are we going to enter the next renaissance?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question. I'm not going to pretend that I have a crystal ball. I do think that I say this all the time, which is I would not be working on this if I thought it posed a categorical threat to humanity that was going to be completely outside our control. That said, I do genuinely believe there is a non-trivial chance, I would probably put it, in the low single digits, that there could be some accidental runaway AI situation where we get to a point, the emergent capabilities are achieved that provide us with super intelligence, and something happens and there's a runaway process. I genuinely am optimistic that's not going to happen, and I'll give one reason why, among many, which is these AI systems, as they become more intelligent, there's been throughout history this sort of line that as we as a species have become more intelligent and become better at controlling our world and better able to feed ourselves and clothe ourselves and improve through technology, murder rates have gone down, war rates have gone down. It may seem bad now, but it was really bad, back in the day. And so I don't think there is a direct line with that you can draw that says, higher intelligence will result in destruction. I think we could end up in a situation very much like what you see in the movie Her, where as intelligence becomes greater, the need to dominate and destroy diminishes in equal proportion. And then the other thing is that
more civilized society.
For civilized society, exactly. And the other thing is there won't be evolutionary pressure on these systems to compete in that way, meaning they won't have to, like we did, live in a world that is very, very, competitive and nasty, and just being able to feed your family thousands of years ago, defend your family was really, really challenging. And I think that evolved certain behaviors that we won't necessarily see in these AI systems.
Man, I have so many things I want to dig into on this, but I'm gonna bring it back to the theme of the show, which is how do companies go through these stages of growth, and what is on their leaders list? And I think everybody would love to know what is on Ron Green's leaders list, because it's got to be different.
Yeah.
Let me ask this first.
Yes.
Right now, KUNGFU.AI, what growth stage would you suggest that you guys are in?
What growth stage?
Yeah.
We're starting to grow. I think maybe hockey sticking is the right phrasing. I've done 9 startups. I've founded or co-founded 4 of those. They all, there's always sort of a common, I think, growth curve across these companies that I see. And you go through stages, and I think about it like raising children. You're a baby, then you're a toddler, and then you're an adolescent. I think that we're sort of a young adult at this point, right? I don't think we're at the adult stage. We are, building amazing systems, and we're growing. I think we're going to grow 80% this year, and the future looks amazingly bright. But we're not quite to what I would consider the full-on adult stage that is coming for us next.
Got it. Okay, that's super helpful. So if you think about that curve, your role, talk about what you do in Kung Fu, and then help us understand, like, what are the key initiatives that the organization is thinking about right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the CTO. I'm one of the co-founders, and I oversee delivery, which for us means I oversee strategy, engineering, and project management. And so I'm on the side of the business that works with our clients And we'll do things like dedicated engineering initiatives where we're building bleeding edge AI capabilities for our clients, or strategy where we're helping them figure out. Many of our clients come to us and they say, look, AI is a priority. We don't know where to start. We don't know how to prioritize build versus buy decisions. We don't know whether we have the data. We don't know what the business value of one initiative versus another might be. And our strategy team, which is just world-class, can help with that. And then the project management organization sets astride both of those and makes sure we deliver just excellent work. And my job within the company is to make sure that we are always at the bleeding edge. This is, everybody says something like that, but it is unbelievably challenging to stay up in AI. I don't think there has been a Sunday morning where, for the better part of a decade, where I have not made a cup of coffee and sat down at my desk and read AI white papers for 3 to 4 hours, because it is, how are we going to be able to help our clients? How are we going to advise them on strategy regarding AI or engineering regarding AI if we're not up on the bleeding edge? And so that's one of the biggest things we do. And in fact, I'll say one more thing that may blow listeners' minds. We actually instituted something called Lab Day about 4 years ago. We were all just working so hard and then spending our nights and our weekends trying to read the latest white papers and stay up to date, that we did something radical. And we said Fridays are going to be what we call Lab Day. We do not do billable work on Fridays. We focus on, as I said, white paper reviews. We'll read them as a group. We'll have guest lecturers come in. We play with new open source models. We play with new frameworks or new approaches. And that's been a game changer, because it allows the team, it's allowed this incredible world-class team to stay up to date, but not do it on the side and then have to, put in 60 hours a week just to stay state of the art.
I actually think we did the exact same thing in the mobile space. We didn't go the full day, but we did every Friday morning. We said we're going to commit that time because there's no other way. But it was interesting because I think we both know Ben Gaddis just put out a post the other day on LinkedIn where he was talking about, like, keeping up is the hardest part in AI.
Mm-hmm.
So he has AI identifying the differences in the platforms for him, right?
Yep. That's
and
right.
that's the point. Right? How do we get to the tool to use it at its best?
It's so true. It's so true. And in fact, I even find myself sometimes only realizing after I've gone down some path, like, what am I doing? I can just have AI do this for me. You go do the research. Yeah. You go do the analysis. You can even put it in the meta mode, which is go do the research and analysis to figure out what I should tell you to research and analyze, right? Just as a society, I really am one of the believers that even if AI technology right now cease to improve, it's going to take us many years to embrace and deploy and disseminate these capabilities within the enterprise and society, and it's not going to stop. And so I think all of us, even us in the AI trenches, are struggling to adapt to the pace of change.
Yeah. It's just fascinating to me that, thinking about your leaders list, I can't imagine being able to keep up with all the change. But even for somebody like you to catch yourself not using the tools.
Absolutely.
There's an argument that there's something beautiful about that too, though, right? Because that's still using that melon that we've got.
That's right.
To struggle and to put ourselves through a process of change. Yes. And I can't underestimate, or I don't think we can underestimate the value of using our own brains to keep reimagining and rethinking, because there's going to be some amazing connections that take place there. But that's coming from a guy who has been a practitioner for years.
Right.
For everybody else, I'm saying, look, start using it. be deep.
Definitely start using it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got an idea of your leaders list. For the organization at this stage, what are some of the things that organization wide you're thinking about? Is it really pace of change and keeping up, and or is it breaking down process services, making those easier? Like what's the biggest thing right now?
Oh, that's a great question. It's really shifted, I'd say, over the last year. I think as an organization, it's not that, and I think this would apply to everybody listening, regardless of what your business is or how large you are or what your market is. You really want to, I think, focus on the areas that are going to have the best return for that time or that money. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, what's happening within the software development lifecycle is the single most momentous and impactful change, I think, within AI. And that is because we now have AI coding assistants that can code on par with humans, but they don't get tired, and their attention doesn't fade, and they don't complain, and they can work 24/7. Do they make mistakes? Absolutely, they make mistakes. They can go find those mistakes and fix them. So one of the biggest things we're doing is we are trying to, as much as we can, be at the tip of that spear on revolutionizing our own software development practices so that we can be best of breed and we can take that to our clients. We're not hired very often to come in and say, teach us how to use the latest AI coding agents, but we're getting that more and more, and we're really good at it already. And it's already changed how we do stuff. So for example, to be concrete, user interfaces are something that we don't really code anymore. You just tell the AI what you want. And you can get entire, complete, functional web apps or desktop apps in a matter of hours now. Well, that's changing things for us. So I would say, Bryon, the number one thing is we're really focused on making sure we're getting as much leverage as we can out of these new AI coding agents. The other is really more broad. For example, within finance, within the last 6 months, it's become possible that you can use foundational models, whether you're using OpenAI or you're using Anthropic. You can literally take these models, especially something like, let's say, Opus 4.6, point it to a directory of thousands of spreadsheets or PDFs or documents, Word documents, whatever they may be, and say things like, go do a financial analysis of the last 10 years, find mistakes, make recommendations, put together a complete presentation for the executive team. Once all that's done, it can help you practice the presentation. That is something that any organization right now listening to this can do. There's not heavy lift. You can just go get an enterprise license and make that happen. And then we're using AI very deeply within HR, of course, I think like most organizations. And then on the strategy side, it's been a game changer. So imagine you're KUNGFU.AI. You hire us to come help you figure out what your opportunities are. As we mentioned earlier, build versus buy. Do you have the data? What will be the return on this investment? And you have maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of employees, and there are dozens of stakeholders that you need to interview, and documents you need to review, and platforms you need to analyze. We are now able to leverage these AI techniques to help us across the board with all of that. We'll do interviews, we record that. We can use the AI transcript to summarize it. We can use that to help us surface what questions should we have asked. What help us understand, based upon that meeting, what we heard from these stakeholders that's different from what we heard from these stakeholders, or where there was contradictions that, obviously in very large organizations, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. I could go on and on and on. So AI is pervasive across our entire organization, yet we are still every day looking at ways we can get better at it and and have it be more the tool we reach for first, and less of like, oh, hey, you know what? AI could help us with that, and thinking of that second.
Super smart to, and obviously you have to do that, right? You've got to be way in front of that. But what I heard from that is you are at a stage where you're helping organizations recognize the return, and that makes it tangible, right? There was a time when all of this was too pie. Now, the ability to get in front of this and actually have returns, that's one of the things that we talk to clients all the time about, how to introduce AI into their organization. And the ability to help people, some of it's obvious, right? I mean, what is your why?
Yes.
What is your why in AI? Why do you need to do that, and what do you anticipate it doing for you? Then the other thing is giving an organization access, which a lot of people think they've done, and most people in the organization don't have a clear understanding of how to go use it and use it properly.
That's true.
And then the other thing that we find is case studies, being able to communicate success.
Yeah.
And so that's all part of, that's what we have seen in working with small to medium-sized businesses ranging, up to 500 people. You still deal with this. And one of the things we've also talked about is the fact that it's not an IT initiative.
Right.
It's a change management initiative.
That's
so what we
is.
typically recommend is establishing a center of excellence.
Yes.
That can be cross-functional and bring people together, because it is that transformational. Does any of that resonate with what you guys talk about?
Oh, it's almost like you read our playbook. I mean, we couldn't agree more with that. Too many companies are doing AI because they're supposed to be doing AI, right? There's board level pressure, there's executive level pressure to be doing stuff with AI. And that can range from somebody saying, oh, we rolled out Microsoft Copilot, we can check that box, okay?
Yeah.
Or it can range from putting a bunch of money into building some AI system that you think will help your operational costs, but it gives you no differentiation from your competitors, and it's something you could have bought off the shelf potentially, right? So our strategic advice, and this is something that we've been saying now for 9 years, is focus as much as you can on proprietary data. Focus on economic impact and data availability. And on the data availability side, focus on the data that is unique, as much as possible, is unique to your organization, because it gives you a competitive advantage. And you can use that data to build either new functionality that you expose to external users, to your clients, or internally, or to do entirely new things that you couldn't have done before, like predictive systems. I'll give one example. We helped a company that's been around decades. They do loan factoring. They do billions. I think roughly 18 billion in loan factoring annually. The average transaction size is $600, meaning the volume is enormous, right? And all you need to know here is that we worked with them. We found that this was a strategic initiative that we felt they had proprietary data to solve. We trained a model on decades of data, and that model now is able to make, last I checked, it was about 70% of their decisioning requirements automatically. They went from business hours to 24/7, went from an average decision time of 24 hours down to 9 seconds. Satisfaction went up, fraud went down, chargebacks went down, and they are saving well over $500,000 per month with this new system. And and just to bring this full circle, this is completely proprietary. It's their own data. nobody can match what they've done, because you can't build a system capable of this type of behavior unless you have their data, and only they have that data. And there are opportunities like that for every company out there. And that's where we encourage people to, place their bets.
Yeah. I mean, so it's interesting you say that, because I do think that there's a certain size company, like you have to have that scale. Like you just brought up, I know that company that you're talking about, and it's a beautiful case study. So, loan factoring, yes, that was their job, and they had been doing it for a long time and had great data. And so you're right, like that's unique. What about the companies that have, 50 people, 150 people, and maybe they haven't been around as long? What's your recommendation for companies like that? Because I do believe like there are opportunities for every one of these companies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If you're a small company, like let's say 150 people, we're proposing hypothetically, you may, and let's say you're new, you don't have any historical data.
it's great. Great. Yeah.
In those instances, I would encourage you to do a couple things. One is, I've always been a big believer, make the distinction between capabilities that give you competitive advantage versus things you could just buy off the shelf. So for example, if your business, if you being better at accounting doesn't give you any differential competitive advantage with your product or your clients, don't go build your own custom accounting solution. Just go get that off the shelf. So that is a very, I think, very simple. I say that people may be thinking, well, yeah, that's a given. No, you'd be shocked at how many times I've seen companies, including within the AI space, invest time and money into something that was not differentiated and could have been bought off the shelf. The other thing is that too many companies are still thinking, I think, in a traditional way from a capabilities perspective. So you're a new 150 person SaaS solutions company, let's say. Well, you may be thinking, what can I do? Maybe, yeah, Ron's saying use these new AI coding assistants to move faster. Great, we're doing that. Don't sleep on the things that are new that we can do that are AI based. And most of those things involve in a couple of areas. So predictive capabilities, off the chart now. Our ability to synthesize large amounts of data and use that to build predictive capabilities, unbelievable. On the sensing side, whether it's images, video, audio content, text, whatever it may be, structured or unstructured, as a business, whatever your business is, there are opportunities there as well. And then, of course, generative AI. And there's, a lot of people can confuse. They think generative AI is AI. Generative AI is a branch of artificial intelligence. And on the generative side, there are all kinds of things you could do. I'll just give, again, one more example. Let's say your business involves dealing with a lot of data. A lot of businesses do that. Let's say it's messy data and it comes from different sources and it needs to be standardized. You can now use generative systems. You provide enough examples to the system, it can take in this messy data, normalize it, clean it up, augment it as necessary in an automatic way. And I know there are countless companies out there that would want and need that capability. And they can do that now with foundational models or even open source models, which are completely free. You do not have to spend a dime to enable those type of capabilities right now. So if you're listening, you have messy data, it's no longer a problem. You can go fix that now with AI very inexpensively.
I love it. And that's not, you can't use the excuse anymore, right? I mean, how often do you work with companies where they go, well, I mean, we'd like to do that, but we can't get to it. That's bullshit.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right. It's a game changer.
I love it. I love it. Normally halfway through the show, I stop talking about your leaders list and I say, what should be on ours? I think you nailed that. So because I don't have my AI running to tell me what question should I have asked, I'll just go with that. Ron, what question should I have asked that I haven't?
Oh, damn, you put me on the spot.
Take that.
I think, We've covered, I will say this, we've covered a lot of stuff. I think one of the things that maybe, again, I want to come back to this because I think it's probably at the heart of the matter, which is what is going to happen. Let's just take the next 5 years. How are things going to be disrupted? There was a paper that came out, I think about 2 weeks ago over the weekend. It was talking about by 2028, there's going to be 40% unemployment within the white collar space. That following Monday, IBM stock dropped 10%. I don't believe any of that. That is BS. AI, at least for the foreseeable future, because it's moving so quickly, I don't think I have the ability to see more than 5, maybe if I squint a little bit, 8 years out. It is mostly going to be augmenting humans, right? We are going to see very, very few jobs just disappear because they're automated. That will happen, but that's going to be further down the line. But as that happens, just like any new technology, one door closes and another door opens. And I don't think businesses are thinking far enough out ahead about how this is going to impact. And let me be clear about what I mean there. So many businesses right now are so worried about implementing AI and coming up to speed with the AI and understanding the impact that they're not thinking about some of the larger transformative effects that could happen in 5 years. I think that certain business models are going to be transformed. What is it going to look like when software programming is essentially costless, right? Look what the internet did to the publishing industry once content distribution essentially became, no charge. You had your marginal cost went to zero. Something like that is going to happen within the software world. Now, it's not going to be quite as simple as like, oh, you don't need programmers anymore, because I think what actually is going to happen is it's going to force the level of abstraction up one level. We used to have assembly language, then we had higher order programming languages. Now we can literally type and tell the system what we want. Well, that begs the question that you know what you want. And I think there is going to be a dramatic increase in the need and the focus for that sort of product vision and guidance, because you can have these systems build whatever you want, knowing what you want is going to become the choke point. It frankly always has been, but it was masked by the fact that software, we could only operate at the ability for ourselves to code. And now that that's been removed, the true choke point has been revealed, and it's knowing strategically what we want to do.
That's so good. And it is important to recognize that not to be fear-based. That's what I heard from that is like, look, recognize things are going to continue to evolve and change. And I think we know that there will be unintended outcomes, right? And so as we think about this from a business perspective, we're experiencing this right now, right? I mean, like the smoking industry, they killed off a lot of people, and that was they didn't have a problem with that. And then those guys moved to the food industry, and there were a lot of unintended consequences there. And now we see it with the social industry, right? I mean, like there are always going to be unintended consequences, but and an easier way to say that is for everything that's good, there's something bad. There's two sides to every coin.
Every powerful technology has this asymmetry that is unfortunate, but the more powerful technology, the easier it is to do disproportionate damage with it. And that's true of all technologies across all time. And it's why, as incredibly optimistic as I am about this, it's not a given. We do have to be thoughtful about this.
Yeah. I mean, governance is going to be one of those things that I don't see. Very few people are talking about it that I hear loud enough.
That's right.
But man, you said earlier you wouldn't be working on this if you thought that there could be something, if it was really inherently evil. I would suggest people like you are the guys we do need working on this. So Thank you. This has been awesome. And we really appreciate I mean, there's some great history lessons in there, but there's real tangible stuff that the people who are listening to this, when they stop listening, like there are some specific things that they should go and do. Is there anything that you want to give us a parting shot that just says, hey, stop listening and go do 1, 2, and 3? Because I think you already said it.
I would just say, try to train your mind to think of AI as an assistant that you can use for almost any task. And you will find, if you're doing this correctly, I believe if you're doing this correctly, you will find new things every week, every single week, where you are more efficient. You are getting work done at a better, higher quality level, and you are discovering new capabilities. They're coming out constantly. You're discovering new capabilities, and if you just keep that open mind, I really genuinely think a lot of the fear will go away, and you will see the productivity, and your mind will flip from like, why am I hearing all this hype? It just makes no sense to like, oh, you know what? This week I just learned to automate this thing that was taking me 4 or 5 hours, and now it's done automatically with the click of a button. And I think it's the best way to get on board with what's going to happen, where this future is taking us.
What an exciting time to be alive.
It really
Ron
is.
Green, thanks for being on the leaders list.
I could not have had more fun, Bryon. Thank you so much.